Hey guys, welcome to Algebra. Today is April 15th. I was about to say welcome to my TED Talk, but that's not the kind of video we're doing here. So thank you for your time, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible because sometimes it's not fun to watch videos, but we'll do our best here. So we're going to continue our lesson on relations. So for today's mini lesson is we're going to identify independent and dependent variables. So that's the main goal. Know the difference between those two. So let's talk about the two words, dependent and independent. So for right now, let's not think about too much about the math words. Let's talk about the words in terms of just everyday use. So let's talk about people. So when someone's dependent, that means that you depend on somebody else for either shelter, food, or any other kind of thing. So you basically need help from somebody else to on your everyday life. If you're independent, that means you probably have your own job, you make your own money, you buy your own food, you make your own food, and you don't need that much help from any other people. So the same thing in math. So I'm going to look at two different things, and we're going to say which one is the dependent, which one is the one that is not affected by the other one, which one is the one that it's affected by the other one, and which one is the other one that doesn't really care about the other item. So let's look at the first example. So here we're talking about climate. So it says in warm climates, the average amount of electricity used rises as the daily average temperature increases and falls as the daily average temperature decreases. Identify the independent and the dependent variables for this function. So there's two things that I know for sure I have to identify, which it's the independent. So I'll write it down. And the dependent. So once I know which one is which one, I'll just write it down next to those two words. So let me reread the problem again. I like to first read it once and then go back to it and try to break it in parts. So I will look for the most important stuff. So in warm climates, the average amount of electricity used rises as the daily average temperature. So overall, they're talking about two things. They're talking about electricity and temperature. So the average amount of electricity, and they're talking about the daily average temperature. So the way I like to put it, I like to think about the two things and to see how one affects the other one. I like to put it in a sentence. So I'm going to say it this way. Does the amount of electricity depend on the amount of temperature, or does the amount of temperature affect the amount of electricity? So as you say that again to yourself, one of them is not going to make sense. So let's try again. Does electricity depend on temperature, or does temperature depend on the amount of electricity? So it's definitely not the second one. Temperature does not depend on electricity. But electricity does depend on temperature, because if the temperature is high, that means you're going to be using your AC more. But if the temperature goes down, your AC is not going to be used a lot. So that means that the amount of electricity depends, so that means that's the dependent variable. So let me write it down. Average amount of electricity Alright, so the average amount of electricity depends on the daily average temperature. Alright, and that's it. We have identified the independent and dependent variable for the problem. Alright, so we have another example, and then that'll be it. So this one's talking about calories. The number of calories you burn increases as the number of minutes that you walk increases. Identify the dependent and the dependent variable for this function. So once again, we're identifying two things. We're looking for the independent and the dependent. So I'm going to look for the two things. So the number of calories you burn. So number of calories you burn. As the number of calories you burn increases, the number of minutes that you walk increases. So does the amount of calories depend on the number of minutes that you walk, or does the amount of minutes that you walk depend on the amount of calories that you burn? So once again, one of them does not make sense. And for this one, it's a little obvious because we hear this a lot about walking and burning calories. So the first one is right. So the number of calories that you burn will definitely depend on how much minutes you walk. So the more minutes you walk, the more calories you're gonna burn. So calories depends, or the calories depend on how much you walk. So number of calories number of calories you burn depends, so it's the dependent on the minutes that you walk. And that's it. We have again identified the independent and the dependent variable for this problem. So once you have watched this video, you're going to go to Google Classroom. I'm going to open the app. Once you go to Google Classroom, you're going to go to the assignments, and then you're going to look for the one on the top in that category, which says Notes 1.6 Example 2. And once you type your answers, turn it in. I'll check it, and that's it for today. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please send me a message on Remind, email me, or you can also contact me during my office hour, which is from 12 to 1. And I sent the link yesterday, or I'll resend it again. But it's one of your emails that I sent. So the link, you can find it there. So thank you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.